With the recent changes to the descriptions of commander skills in Rise of Kingdoms, players are now wondering, wait, have these commanders been nerfed? Have they been buffed? Have they always worked differently than I thought? And even commanders like Minamoto now have very different descriptions for certain skills. So stick around in this video while I debunk the myths for 7 different commanders, proving conclusively exactly how they work. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and a part of what is really important to me is actually understanding what the commanders do in the game. And for commanders like Minamoto, where I'm like, oh man, he's amazing because reasons, and then all of a sudden that reason in the description has changed, obviously I get a little worried, like, have I been wrong this whole time? So in this video, I've got 7 different commanders. Tariq Ibn Ziyad, Alexander the Great. These are important commanders, Minamoto, Artemisia, Harald, and more, where we're going to go over the exact skills where the language changed, and now we need to figure out how the skill actually works. Now, if this is the sort of thing you like, consider subscribing to the channel. The developers recently went in, and it is important to emphasize that they did not change the way the commanders work. But, you know, when you see the description changes, you got to think like, man, I just need to test this again and make sure it works the way that I think it works. So we're going to go in now and for each of these 7 commanders, review what the skill change in the description is. Even Sun Tzu changed. And then we'll get a look at what they actually do. Now, if this is the sort of thing you like, again, consider subscribing to the channel. And let's get started with Minamoto. I have been saying for ages, aha, the secret thing about Minamoto that makes him so good is the 4th skill. And what made the 4th skill good is that even if you weren't getting targeted, you had a chance to apply a 30% damage taken debuff onto the target. I even advocated that, like, you should swarm garrisons with this commander because that is an insane debuff. And by the way, he has great single target damage. But what does it say now? Well, now it says whenever this commander's troop is hit with a basic attack, it has a 10% chance to increase the attacker's damage received. That's not what I thought it did. So how do we test the way that it works? Well, I went out and I fought a barbarian, baby. And I brought a tanking march, and then I had the Minamoto free hit off to the side. So the only way that this debuff would apply is if the Minamoto applies it himself. In other words, if this is worded wrong. And the way that this works is whenever this commander launches a basic attack, it has a 10% chance to inflict the debuff. So we can go into the favorites, and like I said, I did a lot of these tests here, so I got all these barb reports saved now. Let's go find the test. Here is the Minamoto double C, and I had a Lohar with Richard as my tank march, and so let's go over here, Minamoto double C. We look at the battle log, and it's actually really easy to find if the debuff is being applied or not. So we can just scroll down and look in the enemy section, and boom, there it is. Like, very quickly, even though the Minamoto is not taking normal attacks, he is launching normal attacks. The damage taken by the target is elevated by the 30%. You can see this over here. In fact, it would have been on the previous turn. So how did it trigger? The Minamoto launched a basic attack, and this basic attack triggered Minamoto Warlord skill. There you go. So this works when Minamoto launches attacks, not when Minamoto gets targeted. So good news, Minamoto works exactly the way that we thought. Whew, okay, great. But up next is Alexander the Great. Now, Alexander the Great, we've been talking about for ages. So what changed? Well, if you look in the troop buff section, it was the 4th skill that changed. Now this reads, if this commander's troop has a shield, it gains 40% attack. If it does not have a shield, it gains 30% defense. This is literally the opposite of what I thought it did. What I thought it did is, let's see here. When you do not have a shield, you gain 40% attack. And when you do have a shield, you gain 30% defense. That's what I thought it did. So anyways, I went and I smacked around a little Barbadoo, and we scroll on down. I don't know why I said Barbadoo. I'm just feeling a little weird, apparently. We see that before he uses a shield, he does in fact have troop attack boost. Okay, so he's got a nice troop attack boost. And then when he does use a shield, it switches out of attack and into defense. Okay, so Alexander the Great. You have 40% attack all the time unless you have a shield, in which case it becomes 30% defense. And like, hey, we like 30% defense, all right? That is good. By the way, you can see here's Shield of the King. Now he has a shield. On the next turn, boom, the switcheroo happens. All right, cool. So far, so good. So now we know how Alexander the Great works. We know how Minamoto works. They work the way that we kind of expected and the wording is wrong. But how about Artemisia? So Artemisia, her new expertise skill reads that you have a 10% chance when you launch a basic attack to deal damage factor to the enemy, but you increase the target's skill damage dealt. That's what it used to say. Now it says it increases the target's skill damage received. But I do not think that is correct. So if we actually go and we look at what happens here, very quickly, we will find, I believe, that the debuff will get applied. I'm just clicking on the different turns and looking on the left-hand side. Okay, not as quickly as I thought it would. And there it is. Skill damage plus 15%. I mean, call me crazy, but to me, that means the skill damage was boosted by 15%, and I'm pretty sure that's what the effect is. Okay, here it is. Rules of Survival. This is the one. Skill damage was increased by 15%. I mean, if you were increasing the skill damage dealt, this would look different. I'm pretty sure it would say skill damage taken. All right? I mean, look, here it says skill damage plus 80% for Artemisia, which, oh, wow. That's from Kira. I'm using Kira Artemisia. I mean, it's a barb. I wanted 10% or 10 AP savings, whatever. So gained 80% skill damage increase. Wow, that actually worked out so well because now I can show you that skill damage increase. Yeah, no, I planned this. 100% I planned this. Skill damage increase looks like that, and this is skill damage increase. So we have proven that the language here is not correct. It is, in fact, what we thought it was. You actually increase your enemy's skill damage dealt, which is a bad thing, which is why Artemisia is not as popular. I got all these messages that were like, Chisgule, you were wrong about Artemisia. She's actually making it so the enemy takes more damage. I'm like, that is not, unfortunately, how I think that works. So Artemisia, still fine, but this aspect of her is pretty weak. It's why you should never swarm a garrison with Artemisia. You buff their skill damage, and that hurts, given that they have 2 million troops, and you're swarming with at best 430,000, but literally every single turn you're attacking, it's going to be less than that, because you're losing troops. So, yeah, Artemisia. Don't swarm garrisons with her. TLDR. All right, chat, up next. Woo, what else do I have favorited? Ooh, Harald Sigurdsson. Okay, this is a fun one. So Harald Sigurdsson, the way that he used to work, and what it said he used to do, is that you would gain 5% attack and lose 5% defense. And periodically, on the Stamford Bridge skill over here, you ignore the fact that you lost your defense. Well, now what it says is that whenever this commander uses the Berserker skill, which, that's not a skill, so I don't even know what's happening here. Oh, no, that's the active skill. Okay, that is the active skill. Okay, I understand. Whenever you use the Berserker skill, your troop gains the following buff for 8 seconds. You gain 5% defense. Well, wait, I thought you lose defense. And infantry units gain 5% attack. This buff stacks 15 times, and its duration is reset whenever it gains another stack. So we look at the log, and let's figure out if we are getting a ton of negative defense, right? Easy to figure out the way this actually works. And in fact, it should only ever happen when Stamford Bridge is activated or the active skill is activated, and both look the same in the log. They'll have this little blasty icon. So you can already see we're down 5% defense, but just to really lock in the learning for you here, when we activate Stamford Bridge, we lose the defense loss, but then we gain it again whenever Stamford Bridge is not active. Stamford Bridge is that 4th skill, gives you a 20% chance to fire the active skill for funsies. Basically instant proc active skill, which is pretty bogus. It's pretty crazy. But anyways, yeah, so as you can see, our defense is going down and it is stacking. And so the reality is that this skill is not worded correctly. You are still losing defense. As the developers said in the patch note, they didn't change the way the commanders were working. They just changed the descriptions. And in this case, the description is not accurate. From here, we need to get a look at XY. So on XY's 4th skill, it used to read that there was a March speed debuff, but now it reads as a March speed buff. For the next 10 seconds, cavalry units in their troop deal more damage and gain 10% March speed. This stacks 6 times, and it resets whenever it gains another stack. So this used to read that you would lose March speed. So what is it? Are you gaining March speed or are you losing March speed? Now we're going to go look at the log, and I will point out that you can't forget about the snow-hooved stallion effect, which makes it so that periodically you will gain 25% March speed when you're being attacked. So we're looking for any negative March speed, and that would prove that actually the way this works is you are losing March speed, not gaining it from the 4th skill. So here you can see the hooved stallion effect giving us 25% March speed, and then, boom, minus 10% cav March speed. Aha! We are losing March speed. Here we're at +5, but that's because we have the hooved stallion effect. Now we're at minus 20. So it is stacking negative March speed from the 4th skill. Now we're at negative 30. And if you were wondering where that's coming from, we can see it over here. Cavalry March speed decreased by 30% due to the slow cavalry effect caused by XY forceful spearhead. All right. There we go. So hooved stallion gives you March speed. This skill, forceful spearhead, you lose your March speed. So there it is. So XY does get slower. It's something that we don't really talk about anymore. It's like, but people used to care about it a lot when XY first came out. And yet another commander who works differently than you thought is Tariq Ibn Ziyad. Folks, we're not even done. After Tariq Ibn Ziyad, I have Sun Tzu to talk about. So Tariq Ibn Ziyad, and by the way, big shout out to a bunch of people who left comments on my videos highlighting these things. I wouldn't have found all these on my own. So a huge, huge, huge shout out to each and every one of you dropping comments on my videos. I deeply appreciate it. If we get a look here at the troop buffs, what the 4th skill says is that whenever their troop launches a basic attack, it has a 10% chance to reduce the target's rage by 80 per second. Well, someone clued me that in the Chinese servers, the wording is very different, and that it changed to this, but now it's wrong, which is that in the Chinese servers, what it used to say is that when you are attacked, you have a chance to reduce the target's rage by 80 per second for 3 seconds. Oh, well, this is very different. So which is it? Does it trigger when Tariq Ibn Ziyad launches basic attacks, or does it trigger when he launches counterattacks? Turns out that I think the answer is counterattacks. So how do we prove this? So I brought in the old punching bag, Lohar Richard I, and I ran it down, baby. And if that doesn't deserve a like on the video, I don't know what does. Smash like on the vid. If you're enjoying yourself, consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your support. The free-to-play way costs you nothing. To support the channel is to smash that like button. So, my Lohar Richard died for the cause. But my Diao Chan Tariq Ibn Ziyad persisted and got the kill. So, initially, Tariq Ibn Ziyad with Diao Chan, they are not tanking. And then, when the tank march dies, now they're tanking. So, when they were tanking, we can see in the battle log, all the way at the bottom, okay? And I'll prove this. I'll be very definitive here. But we can see that Tariq Ibn Ziyad's Battle of Gadalet has 2 turns left. Well, that's the rage reduction. So when Tariq Ibn Ziyad is getting targeted, in fact, you apply the rage reduction. But, I mean, he was also doing normal attacks, Chisgule. How do you know which it is? Well, if we just look up in the log a little bit, we can see here that the effect was not applied yet. In fact, it was applied on this turn right over here. The Barbarian Patrol launched a basic attack against Diao Chan, and that attack triggered the rage reduction. So Tariq Ibn Ziyad, I didn't realize, my understanding of what he does has been wrong the whole time. On Tariq Ibn Ziyad, he does the rage reduction when you get attacked, not when he does the attacking. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, it doesn't change the ways I would have used him. I mean, except for garrison swarming, that is very different. Like I used to say, oh, he's really good for garrisoning swarming because, you know, you swarm the garrison and you reduce the rage. No, you don't. No, you don't. Not unless it's the rally and the rally's getting targeted, right? So definitely interesting that that works differently than expected. Okay, we're not done though. We're not done. By the way, I painstakingly looked at like the first in this log. I painstakingly looked, and there were 0 times in the start of the log, I'll even show you, where the rage reduction effect had been applied. So what I'm trying to say is that like I spent a lot of time conclusively proving that actually the way this works is when you get attacked, not the other way around. Because we would see it in the Richard I log that the debuff from the Tariq Ibn Ziyad had been applied. Heck, we can look at the Tariq Ibn Ziyad log, right? And we can look at these turns, and you're not going to see the debuff anywhere for the rage reduction because it's not happening, all right? It's not happening. I looked through like 40 turns or so, and I was like, all right, I've had enough of this. So, and then I saw, the conclusive evidence I showed you earlier where it's like, oh, right, it literally is showing you that it's coming from when he gets attacked, not the other way around. So, up next is none other than the very, 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 very popular Sun freaking Tzu. So, he used to hit 5 targets, and now he only hits 3. Or does he? So, I'm pretty sure he hits 5 targets, but to prove this one, now we actually need 5 targets to hit. So we're going to go to the campaign. We're going to go to the expedition. We're going to pick a mission. Okay. And we're going to try to manufacture a situation where that can happen. So I'm going to make a tank march that's just going to soak up all the damage here. That's fine. Good enough. And then we're going to hit them with that sweet, sweet Sun Tzu. So we're going to run in the tank march. Try to group all these guys up and see if we can't hit at least 4 things with some Sun Tzu skill damage, baby. We're going to get all these marches, hopefully, to attack the tank. We're going to run this up. I don't know if this is going to work. This seemed like a good idea in my head. I guess we run these this way. I don't know. How can I guarantee that I'm going to hit all of them? This is surprisingly awkward. Okay. And I'm going to need a better way to do this. BRB. All right, we're going to try this in an expedition game mode where they should all team up on me, and we should be able to see like 4 of them get hit at a time. We should be able to prove this. I suppose if I really wanted to be comprehensive, I'd have somebody just quit Alliance, or maybe I'd bring my farm over. Maybe that's what I'll have to do. We'll see here. I think it's going to be really obvious that we're going to hit multiple targets, right? Like, look at these guys all clustered up. Give me an active skill. How many am I going to hit? Okay, that time I only hit 3. But because I have so few troops in here, I think these enemies are all going to stack up. And I think we're going to hit more than 3. So let's find out. I think we're going to... You can see we're popping 3 still. All I have is a Sun Tzu. I have barely... I mean, not even enough troops to really get this done. All we're looking for is this troop to walk by on the right and all these guys to still be alive. And all of them get hit, and we know that it's at least 4 at that point, not 3. I think we're going to be able to prove this in a second here. Here comes Richard I. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do. Do-do. Do-do. Do. Do-do-do. All right, please. Boom. Fire the active. Boom! There it is. 4 targets got hit. I might have to watch the replay to confirm, but I think we're hitting 4 targets here, chat. And here, boom. Ooh. I think we had 5 targets. You see the Minamoto took damage. All right. Myth busted. Sun Tzu actually hits 5 targets. GG, everybody. So, that is 7 commanders that work a little bit differently than the way the wording is currently in game. But if you want a cherry on top, where I have a question but I don't have an answer, someone also pointed out in the chat... in my comments, actually, that, hey, wait a minute. The impenetrable fortifications talent has changed. This used to say when you're defending a stronghold or your city's garrison, and now this says only your city's garrison. So we're going to have to figure out if this talent works in flags. I think it does. But if it doesn't, that means that all of us have been doing it wrong for so long, it's actually jaw-dropping. So that's going to be fun. If you want to see the answer to that question and more, consider subscribing to the channel. I've got 2 major live streams coming up tomorrow. You are not going to want to miss it, so smash that subscribe button. I'm going to do a big, I think, crafting session, or in the very least, I'm going to blast through just a ton of transmutation stones to improve my armament situation. And that's, right before some fighting. I mean, that's the right time to blast through all that stuff. Plus, we're going to be battling at the Altar of Darkness. I'm so hopeful we're going to have a fight there. So definitely you're going to want to check out that stream. And the other stream you're not going to want to miss is that also we've got this pass opening. So we're going to have fighting tomorrow. The real fireworks of the 3v1, technically 6 kingdoms versus 1 situation is going to really start to happen tomorrow. This is when it all goes down, where it's all those kingdoms versus our kingdom. And it might take a minute for Kingdom 2 to, build their way over, if that's even what they're going to do. But, it's going to be spicy all week long. And then we've got Kingsland. Oh, by the way, and then there's also the meetup in Germany. So for Call of Dragons and Rise of Kingdoms, there's going to be a lot to talk about. A lot of new info drops, a lot of battling. Subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom. By the way, check the card in the end screen for 3 other commanders whose skills recently had their descriptions changed.